This is the story of a woman who didn't scream at her husband's funeral because she was already planning her masterpiece. The man she buried wasn't just a husband, he was a traitor. And the woman crying beside her? She wasn't mourning, she was collecting. So she watched, she waited, and then she struck. But this wasn't revenge with blood and fire. This was slow, precise, psychological. She didn't want justice. She wanted that woman to see herself and never sleep again. This isn't about ghosts. It's about guilt. And guilt always leaves a reflection. The sky was the color of old bruises, fitting. Funerals don't need sunshine. They need silence, gray skies, still air, and someone to watch closely. I stood at the edge of the grave, my gloved fingers clenched around the folded funeral program. People wept. They whispered prayers. A wind picked up, but I didn't shiver. She did. She stood to my right, not more than a foot away. Her black dress hugged her curves like it belonged to her, like she knew it had once caught my husband's eye. Her mascara ran just enough to be believable, a trembling bottom lip, dabs of tissue at her eyes, breath hitching at the right moments. But grief doesn't make you reach into a dead man's pocket. I saw her hand slide into Brandon's jacket when she thought no one was looking. Just for a second. Fingers brushing fabric. Then something clutched. Taken. She didn't even flinch. She didn't come to mourn. She came to claim. I didn't cry, I watched. The funeral ended in rain. People offered me hugs, words, pity. I smiled, nodded, said thank you. I didn't feel any of it. My eyes stayed fixed on her. Her name was Melissa Hart. She'd been Brandon's assistant for almost 3 years. She wore high heels to our backyard barbecues. She called me sweetheart in that sugary way that made my teeth itch. I started finding things 2 months before Brandon's car accident. A second phone he kept hidden in the garage tool chest. Hotel receipts in a town we'd never visited together. Lipstick that wasn't mine on his undershirts. And text messages. Not just sexy ones. Plans. Financial talk. Mentions of me. I wasn't angry. Not then. I was fascinated. Watching betrayal unfold like a slow-motion crash. Then the crash came. Police said Brandon's brakes failed. That was a lie. I knew the car better than anyone. I was the one who always took it in. The logs were clean, no issues. But Melissa had borrowed his car 2 nights before. Said she was picking up dinner while I was sick in bed. She brought back Thai and a bottle of red. She didn't mention the 10 minutes she spent parked in the alley behind the body shop. I let it all settle in my bones. At the wake, she hugged me. Whispered how sorry she was, told me Brandon loved me. Then she had the audacity to cry into my shoulder. Her tears left a faint smell of lavender. Later, I followed her out back when she thought no one noticed. She lit a cigarette and smiled like a woman who'd just closed a chapter and started a better one. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I hunted. The first thing I did was check Brandon's accounts. There were new ones I never knew about. Melissa had her name on them. Joint savings. Thousands moved around in careful amounts like they didn't want to leave a trail. Too late. There was also a safe deposit box. I pretended to be Melissa on the phone, used a voice-changing app, got the box number and the location. Inside was a will Brandon had never mentioned. It cut me out. Gave everything to her. But it wasn't filed. That was her mistake. I took pictures of everything, copied files, downloaded texts, made a web of every step they took. Brandon's loyalty had died long before he did. And Melissa, she thought she won. That's when I began. She found the first note on her bathroom mirror, written in soap. I'm still with him. She scrubbed it off, I'm sure. But soap doesn't always vanish right away. Sometimes the steam brings it back. She got the second message on her phone. A voicemail, just breathing. My breathing, soft, slow, like I was in the same room. She changed her locks. She started sleeping with the lights on. She asked for time off work. And I waited. One night, I parked across from her apartment building, watched her open her curtains. She looked into the mirror and screamed. She saw my reflection standing behind her. Except I wasn't there. Not physically. But I knew every angle of her apartment. I'd been inside once, back when she held a holiday party and invited the office. I knew which mirror faced her bed, which corner caught the most shadow. It didn't take much. A half-second flash of light from my camera through her window synced with her bedroom lamp. A picture taped inside the mirror's backing, a still from our wedding. Just our eyes. Just for a second. Enough to make her question what she saw. She began to unravel. I watched her visit psychics, priests. One even smudged her apartment with sage. It didn't help, because every time she thought she was alone, I let her feel me. A cold draft in her shower, a whisper when she shut her closet, a photograph left on her counter of Brandon smiling beside me. Ones she never took. I never showed myself. Not truly. That would be too fast. Too easy. I wanted her to slip. She started muttering to herself in grocery aisles. Told her neighbor someone was inside her TV. When she tried to throw Brandon's things out, they reappeared. I replaced them, silently. Like they never left. Then one night, she ran barefoot into the street. Said he was sitting on her bed. Said he spoke to her. She was wrong. He never said anything. That voice? That was me, and we were just getting started. Melissa didn't show up to work the next Monday. Her supervisor called her 3 times. No answer. I already knew where she was. She was holed up in a hotel off the interstate, the kind with rust stains in the tub and doors that don't quite close. I knew because I watched her check in from my car. She wore oversized sunglasses, a hoodie, and joggers. No heels, no mascara, no trace of the woman who stood beside me at my husband's grave. I let her settle. 1 night. 2. On the 3rd night, while she showered, I let myself in. Cheap lock. Easier than a whisper. I didn't move anything. Just placed a jewelry box on the dresser, and she hadn't seen in years. It was the box Brandon gave me on our 2nd anniversary. I kept it hidden after I found out. But Melissa had seen it once, long ago, when she helped me move books during a company retreat. She'd admired the little rose carved on top, the velvet inside, the gold chain it once held. Now it sat on her dresser, lid slightly open. Inside was a lock of hair. Brandon's. From his brush, she screamed when she saw it. The hotel manager told her no one had entered her room. Of course they hadn't. The next day, she checked out and drove 3 hours to her sister's in Vermont. But I had already been there. 2 days before, I sent her sister a message from a burner account, pretending to be Brandon's ghostwriter. Said Melissa had unfinished business. Her sister wouldn't let her in. Said she was sick. Melissa spent the night in her car. I watched her sleep. Then I moved the mirror in her glove compartment so when she woke up, her own reflection was staring back with my eyes. She broke it with her elbow. And still, I didn't stop. She tried to delete all her photos on her phone, so I replaced her screensaver with one she'd never taken. Brandon lying in the morgue. Eyes open, mouth slightly parted. She dropped the phone. In the toilet. But even new phones need emails to activate, and I had already hacked hers. She started carrying a Bible, clutched it like a weapon, told a priest she thought someone was stealing her dreams. I made sure she couldn't sleep. White noise machines clicked on by themselves. Music played backward. At 3 a.m. every night, her lights flickered just once. She threw her TV out the window. But the worst wasn't the haunting. It was the knowing. One night, she opened her laptop and saw a single document waiting for her. The truth about Brandon. Inside were timelines, photos, money transfers, her fingerprints. Every detail from the will that wasn't filed. Every damning moment. But not reported. I didn't want justice in court. I wanted it in her eyes. She began to unravel faster. She wandered into a police station in the middle of the night, barefoot, claiming she was being followed by a ghost. They ran a wellness check, found nothing. She spent 2 days in a holding cell, refusing to speak. When they released her, she didn't go home. She went to Brandon's grave. I followed at a distance. She knelt in front of the headstone and whispered to it like a lover. Then she begged, said she was sorry, said she didn't know what would happen, said she just wanted a life that wasn't made of scraps. She cried until the grass darkened beneath her. But I didn't care, because the day Brandon died, she smiled. I saw it, and now she would never smile again. When she returned to her apartment, her door was already open. Inside, all her lights were off. The television played static. And on every mirror, written in red lipstick, was a single word. Mine. Her knees buckled. She screamed so loud the neighbors called 911. But I was gone before the sirens came. She didn't know it yet, but she was never going to be alone again. Not in her bed, not in her thoughts, not in the mirror. And this was only the middle. The clinic sat on the edge of a wooded hill, hidden behind iron gates and silence. They called it a recovery center. I called it a retreat for the broken and guilty. Melissa checked herself in after a full blackout in her apartment. She'd woken up in the closet, clutching Brandon's shirt to her face, teeth marks on her wrist. No memory of putting them there. She begged the intake nurse to keep the lights on, refused to look at any reflective surface, covered her wall mirror with a towel. I watched the security footage later, saw the way her eyes darted, how she trembled even when no one spoke. She was being eaten alive from the inside out. But I wasn't done feeding her ghosts. I mailed her a letter. Plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a single page. I never left, you just stopped looking. She tore it up in front of staff, burned the pieces in the courtyard. But that night, the words appeared again, on the inside of her window, in condensation. She screamed loud enough that the nurses sedated her. I didn't feel bad, not once. Because the truth is, she didn't just sleep with my husband. She built a future with him. A secret one. I was planning dinner, she was planning my erasure. There were emails I hadn't read before, buried under folders. One said, "We could move to the Keys. She's always so tired lately. She wouldn't see it coming." I memorized that line, repeated it while I watched her through the clinic fence. I started showing up during visiting hours, never went in, just sat on a bench near the garden, wore sunglasses, brought a book. He saw me once. I know she did. He froze mid-step. Her nurse touched her arm, asked if she was okay. Melissa nodded, lips white, then vomited into the hydrangeas. After that, she stopped going outside. But I got in anyway. The clinic was old. It had tunnels from the boiler room to the basement. I found the blueprints. One night, I crawled through the dark and left a single object in her nightstand. Brandon's wedding ring, still warm from my hand. She didn't sleep after that. They moved her to a private suite with no mirrors. But she made them take the light bulbs out too, said reflections could hide in anything. Metal, glass. Water she refused to shower. I mailed her another note. "You killed the body, I kept the soul." After that, she asked to speak to a priest, then a shaman, then a psychic. She said she could hear Brandon breathing under her pillow. I was the one who installed the tiny speaker there. Every night, soft exhales timed with a rhythm of sleep, just enough to keep her on the edge of madness. She started writing on the walls with her lipstick, not words, just spirals. They moved her to suicide watch, but I knew she didn't want to die. She wanted release, forgiveness, the truth. But I had already taken the truth and twisted it into a rope that wrapped around her every thought. Her doctor asked for a family contact. She gave my name. The staff called, asked if I could speak on her behalf, said she trusted me. Of course she did. So I came, sat in the visitor room with fake sympathy in my eyes. Melissa shuffled in, wrapped in 2 sweaters, trembling like a leaf. She didn't speak, just looked at me, eyes hollow, skin gray. "Do you see him?" she asked. I shook my head. "You brought him, didn't you?" I smiled, just a little. "No," I whispered. "You did." She collapsed into the chair, sobbing. I leaned in, let my voice curl into her ear like smoke. "I was going to forgive you," I said. "But then you smiled at his funeral." She looked at me with something worse than fear. Recognition that I'd never left, that I was always in her mirrors. I stood up and walked out. Behind me, she screamed my name. They sedated her again. I didn't look back. She'd never escape now. Even if she left the clinic, the haunting wouldn't stop. Because it wasn't about ghosts. It was about guilt. And guilt wears your face when you look too long into the dark. 3 months passed. Melissa didn't speak to anyone after that visit. Not the staff, not the other patients. She sat in silence for hours, rocking in her chair, eyes never moving from the corner of the room where shadows leaned the heaviest. They tried new medication. They tried hypnosis. They tried art therapy, and she just drew mirrors. Empty ones. They told me she was deteriorating, that they might transfer her to a long-term psychiatric facility in upstate New York. But I knew she wouldn't make it that far, because I still wasn't finished. That night, I left a final gift on the back step of the clinic, tucked in a brown paper package. Inside, a photo album, when I created myself. The first half was old pictures of me and Brandon, vacations, anniversaries, moments she never saw. The second half was what mattered. Screenshots of her texts, her name beside bank transfers, her call logs on the night before his car crashed, photos of her at the repair shop, surveillance from a gas station where she bought gloves and a tiny silver tool that disappeared into her purse. Then came the letter, typed, clean, cold. "This is your legacy. Not the affair, not the lies, not even the death. This, the unraveling, the truth dripping down your throat until you choke on it. You didn't erase me, you made me eternal. And I'm not haunting you. I'm reminding you. You did this. Every reflection is just a piece of the life you stole, so look, keep looking." They found the package in the morning. Melissa was gone. The security footage showed her walking out barefoot in the rain, wearing only a nightgown. She walked into the woods behind the clinic and disappeared. They searched for 3 days. Dogs, drones, volunteers. But she left nothing behind. No note, no trail. Just that photo album on her bed, pages wet with her tears. Some said she ran. Some said she died. But I knew better. She became exactly what she feared. A whisper behind every door. A breath in the back of every throat. A ghost in every mirror. Because the truth is, revenge doesn't end with an apology. It ends when the person who tried to erase you finally sees themselves for who they really are. Not a mistress, not a partner, not a victim. A thief? A coward. A woman who thought love was something she could take like a coat off a hanger. Melissa will never know peace. She might be alive somewhere. She might be wandering highways or living under a different name, trembling every time she catches her reflection in a window. But wherever she is, I am too. Not in body, in memory. Because you can escape a person. You can move, hide, change your name. But you can't escape what you did. And you can't run from the truth when it follows you in every reflection, in every mirror, forever.